Hi, this is Ryan Murphy, Ryan Acid Hits Murphy, if you know anything about my music. Okay, so this one is going to be a bit of it's going to take a little time because I've got some stuff to explain, even though it seems like a real frivolous issue. It isn't, for me. But it, it's all leading up to I want to get your opinion, a poll, a YouTube online opinion poll on the topic of does anyone actually like chatty restaurant people? So even if at some point in this video, while I'm giving you the explanation for why I'm taking this particular opinion poll, you get bored and don't want to finish watching, you can still answer in the comments on how you feel on this issue. How do you feel about managers in particular that go out into the restaurant and chat with the customers? On a scale of 1 to 10, say, where do you fall, with 1 being you don't like it at all and 10 it's absolutely essential for you to go to a restaurant that the manager comes out and talks to you? Okay, 1 to 10, where do you fall on the spectrum? Okay, so again, if you get bored listening to the explanation, you can still chip in on the poll itself. Now, the backstory on this topic is everybody does this, but the way my brain works, I find myself doing it a lot. It's remembering an argument or a confrontation or something you had maybe years ago and kind of finding yourself getting back right into the argument or ranting, saying the shit you wish you would have said then. The French have a phrase for that. It's called, it translates into the wit of the staircase, because it's a phrase for those times that we all experience when we've had an argument or a confrontation of some kind and find ourselves are thinking of the thing we should have said, we wish we would have said later. The wit of the staircase. You had your witty moment after you left and you're on the stairs leaving. Okay, happens to everybody, but it happens to me a lot because unfortunately I get flustered in arguments and confrontations easily. So it's always later that I always think of pretty much everything I wish I would have said, so it bugs the hell out of me. Now, the story here is that it's been years ago now, but my mother was a manager of a restaurant called Jimmy's Diner, Wichita, Kansas, where we live. Okay, it was owned by the King family. Wayne King, I believe it was his father, helped found White Castle restaurants, but then they went their separate ways with the White Castle thing, but that's just a bit of history there. And now, my mother worked for the Kings for over 20 years. She started off as a cook, worked her way up to the manager of the big restaurant, Jimmy's, the cash cow. And then the Kings retired, sold the company to a guy named Jack Davidson, made all of his money on Pizza Hut franchises. Actually, more than once had told her that he needed her because he didn't know anything about running an actual restaurant. Ha ha. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details. Suffice to say, my mother ended up with a bleeding ulcer from taking anti-inflammation NSAIDs for severe degenerative arthritis, and a bleeding ulcer almost killed her. The day before she was to come off of doctor's care, he fired her. Dick move, no matter what book you're reading from. Okay? Now, I was also working at Jimmy's as a prep cook, and I was fired later, and I did have a couple of run-ins with the guy, and of course, completely failed to say all the shit that I wish I would have said. So now, occasionally, the crap pops into my head, and I find myself, laying down to try and sleep, and something will trigger it, and, we've all done it at some point. Now, a lot of this shit will never be resolved. That's just the unfortunate thing here, but you can help me with the one, because and I found myself dwelling on this again earlier, and that's what made me think of doing this video, The reason he claimed that he fired her, I never really believed it. I always figured it had something to do with insurance or something, or just the fact that she was getting older and uh, bound to have more medical issues with the insurance. I don't know, like I say, I never really believed it. But let's, for the sake of argument, say that it was the real reason, which I'm getting to. He fired her for not going out and talking to the customers. That's what he said. Okay. I mean, how stupid of her to waste her time managing the restaurant. The nerve. You know? But the thing that bugs me the most about that as a reason is that, generally speaking, with most things, people will, only like 25% of people over at this end will like something. The other another 25% over at this end won't like it. And then everybody else in the middle, the other 50%, vary in shades of I don't care. They're in the middle somewhere. Which means at best, he fired her to appease 1 out of 4 people. Hardly worth ruining someone's life over. And my mother, that was her thing. Besides having me, she never married, which is not really kind of pertinent. I mean, being the manager of that restaurant was her life. It's what she did. She worked hard for it. It was her thing. It's what she did. And at over 50 and in not the best of health because of the arthritis and everything, no real prospect of ever being able to be hired by anyone else. So, fucked her life up totally. This is not a revenge video. I really do want your help on settling this thing in my head. Okay? Because, in my heart of hearts, I think that he fired her for nothing. If that really was the reason he fired her. If that was legit the excuse. She wasn't going out and talking to customers. I just cannot help but feel that if that was the real reason, it was, he fired her for absolutely nothing at all. And that's why I'm doing this online YouTube poll to see if I'm right. I want to get your opinion on the topic. Okay? Because my guess, my intuition here says that nobody goes to a restaurant just because of a manager that comes out to talk to them. I know some people consider it a plus. That isn't the issue. Okay? Now, personally, I fall at the extreme end of the don't like it scale. When I go out to eat, I want the waitstaff to bring the drinks, take the order, bring the food, keep the drinks topped off, and leave me the fuck alone. Essentially. When a manager talks to me, I don't look at him and I say the bare minimum it takes to get him to go away. I consider it an intrusion. They are interrupting my meal. Okay? I literally do have to force myself to not say when they have the inevitable line of how's the meal, or is everything okay, or everything fine, whatever. I have to force myself not to say it was until you interrupted me. I have to force myself to not say that, because that is how I feel about it. I do not like it. Okay? I'm almost always with somebody when I'm out to eat, and if I want to have a conversation, I have somebody to have a conversation with. I don't need them to provide one for me. That's probably a reason why it pisses me off as an excuse for firing her so much, is because basically he fired her for something that I don't want managers doing in the first place. So that just makes it that much more irritating to me. But that really does bring me finally to the end of this, the poll. Does anyone actually like chatty managers enough that they can justify, could you justify firing a good manager? My mother was very good at her job. Could you justify firing her for not talking to people? Do you personally care enough about a manager talking to you at a restaurant that you would fire that manager for not doing it, even though in every other aspect of the job they excelled? Okay. Because this is one of those things, I don't think it would fall within that 25, 25, 50, general range of emotions or how people feel about the thing, because it just isn't that important. And also, just the whole situation of somebody talking to you when you're there to eat. Again, this could just be my personal dislike of it tainting my viewpoint, which is why I want to get your view on the subject. But I just don't feel it would fall within that typical 25, 25, 50 range. My intuition says to me, it just says, my feeling on it is that it's more like 30% of people would be more like me and not like it at all, and the other 70% really don't care. It might be a plus when it happens, but if it doesn't, you're not going to lose any. You're not going to judge a restaurant on it if that doesn't happen, because people go out to eat to eat. You're going to judge a place on the quality of the service and the food. And when I say quality of the service, I mean how well they take care of you in getting you a good meal. So, am I right? I want you to tell me your thoughts on this subject in the comments, or I'm going to put up a thread on my forum. They're acidbathproductions.biz. There will be a link in the About section of the video. And I want you to tell me your thoughts on the subject. How do you actually feel about managers talking to you when you're at a restaurant? You can either just give it to me in that simple 1 to 10, with 10 being you think it's an essential thing, 1 being you really don't want them, you don't like it, you don't want them to do it at all, or somewhere in between. Or you can give a more detailed comment, of course. So, thanks for watching. I'm sorry that this went on for so long, but as I said, there was a need for the explanation, because it does mean something to me personally. You will actually be helping me settle this in my head once and for all. Although, honestly, it probably won't help. But I can always try. So, yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.